story that I put out in my press release. The House of Bees USA Book Tour 2011. Once upon a time, in a house of broken mothers, there lived a little boy who could speak to bumblebees. He lived there with his sister and his mother, who was waiting to be fixed. But before she could be fixed, they were chased away by the rats who eat mice. And then one day, when the moon stayed in the sky till noon, the beekeeper came and he took him away in a black net, and it was rubbish. He lived in a house for children who were broken a bit, away from their imperfect parents, who were elsewhere, out there, in a world that was all broke up. It was the bees that told him. They said, "Oi," they said. "You should be a poet," they said. "It's really relaxing," says they. "You just sit there and come up with stuff." "That sounds great," says he. "But how do I come up with stuff?" "Just close your eyes and go to sleep," they said. So he did, and all the bees crawled into his ears and then into his head, and they filled it with their whispers. The next day he woke up, buzzing, and the first thing he did was write a poem, just like that, out of nothing, like magic. Then he walked out into the wasp-filled world, a proper poet, to grow up and publish a book with bees in it, and poems, obviously. Problem was, all the other poets were killing themselves because no one bought poetry books anymore, except for books by poets who had already killed themselves. And the ones that weren't killing themselves were just sitting there doing nothing but coming up with stuff, complaining about no one buying books anymore. All relaxed looking like. So the boy got up and he said, "I'm just going to sit around relaxing and coming up with stuff. I need new shoes. These ones have got massive holes in them and they're held together by sellotape." So he flew to America with all his books and he bought a bicycle. "What are you doing?" said the bees, who now lived in his head making honey. "I'm going to cycle the length of this country and back, sell loads of books and buy new shoes," said he. "But you're not fixed yet," said the bees. "So what?" says he. "I'm doing it anyway." And he did. But he's not fixed yet, and he's not back yet. But he's out there, somewhere in America, in a bookshop near you, on a bicycle, loads of books with him, holes in his shoes, giving honey away for free. Honey away for free bit was a metaphor. Actually, I'm selling CDs. I had all my book published, sent to Bellingham, my first reading on Friday, and the books arrived today. So I had to post them to Portland, which is my next reading, but I had CDs done as well. So if you like this, they're actually $10, but because I don't want to carry them to Portland, they're going for $5, so I can sell more. All that matters at this stage is beer and weight. And there's a graph that's ever moving between my waistline and my baggage that I'm carrying. I'm going to start off. The book is called House of Bees. It's an autobiographical collection that is available from the fall through, I can't remember the name of the distributors, but nevertheless you can get it on Amazon. It's an autobiographical collection that describes my life in metaphors and lies. And I lived in the first ever battered wives' home in the world, and later on in the children's home. So I'm going to start with probably what I think is my favourite poem in the book. It's called Tammy, Love in a Children's Home. I must explain something to you first. When I was, this is about a girl, the first girl I ever fell in love with. I was 14, she was 13. If you look up Stephen Murray Galway, which is where I live, you'll come up with a sex offender. 3 years my junior. We were in our 30s. We're from the same town. We have the same name. It's a little bit close to comfort. I work in schools for a living. I have to explain that this poem is about a girl I knew when I was 14 and she was 13. It's called Tammy. And I gotta find it before I tell you it. Okay, here it is. Oh, by the way, sometimes when I teach kids I say there are no bad words, they're inappropriate words. If you're going to use bad language, it better be good. There better be no other word acceptable for that particular context. So just in case anyone is allergic to curses, they're not made of dairy. Okay. Tammy, Love in a Children's Home. Tammy came to my room in the night in her slip. She was braless and brainless and breathless and only 13. She would sit at the end of my bed and part her legs ever so slightly, and my heart would beat a good thump of it as her nipples pressed hard against soft white cotton. And her flesh was an evil genius, and her flesh was a criminal mastermind, and her flesh was Moriarty. oh Tammy, trembled the dust. Burn me, burn me, burn me. She spoke about men and the back seats of cars as she opened my window and unclipped the stars. I drooled at the mouth for the marmalade of her, and I longed for the skin of her butterscotch thighs. I would give for the world, the land and the sea, and for the salt of her sweat I would throw in the skies. And her lips were the fawn of mankind, and her blue eyes were time spent in jail. Tamara, Tamara, grumbled the night, rev up your engines and fire out the lights. I am yours, I am yours. And her scent was a Jedi mind trick, and her innocence was an old man's tongue. Tammy fucked every man on our street, and came to my room in the night in her slip to torment me. They took her behind bushes, and they beat her black in blue daylight. She seemed to enjoy the drama of it. I think it made Tammy feel grown up. And her voice was a song, and her skin was a life sentence. Tamara, Tamara, God damn you to the gutters, screamed the bright white light of the day as her teenage spaceship crashed somewhere in the silhouetted distance. Tammy came to my room in the night in her slip to torment me, with the flesh of her thighs and her bright blue eyes, and I pandered to the dust, and I took great gulps of the thin air she breathed. Oh, for one crumb from her navel. Oh, for one spoonful of marmalade. Oh, for young Tammy, who was only 13, with a body to cry for, and a face that would launch 1,000 fists. Tammy came to my room in the night in her slip. She was braless, and breathless, and brainless, and only 13. I always feel funny when I hear people laughing at that one. It's like having canned laughter at an autopsy. Or, a coroner's examination or something. But I did a reading of it in Dublin recently, and someone laughed the whole way through. I know, yeah. I'm going to give you something from home now. A little bit of Ireland, because when I first met Brian was here, we lived in Barna, which was the first fishing village into Connemara, the Irish-speaking, the bastion of the Irish language, which is now fading. And with the Celtic tide out, Barna turned from a fishing village to a suburb of Galway. And I was privileged enough to be a bartender for 3 years in this town, with all the old guys there. Took me in and called Old Barna. Oh, just to give you a bit of background, the Dagda is the ancient father god, Celtic father god, and the Dagda's cauldron is the cauldron of plenty. You put one cow in, you get 7 back. So, this is for Jimmy Grady. They haunt this place like clockwork, in broken shoes and musty blazers. From the dignified noon to the gentle swerve of afternoon sat sipping pints of porter, destroying time with vast spaces.